Welcome to the return slot of horror, a podcast set in the basement of a video store, a place where your hosts, Mickey and Michelangelo, hang out after hours, enjoy spooky cocktails, and can't seem to wax poetic enough about their love for horror films. We invite you to grab a drink, be careful on the stairs, and join us on our journey through the many subsections of our little video store. And don't be the last one left in the basement at the end of the night.
Hello, listener, and welcome to the return slot
of horror.
brought to you here on YouTube by Red Tower. So, we're a podcast recorded in the basement of our video store. Now, typically we are three friends. Tonight it's just the two of us, but the three of us own and operate a video store after hours. When the moon is glowing pale blue on a brisk and breezy night, we like to hang out in the basement, crack open a drink, and discuss our beloved genre.
Horror.
Now, this genre...
Sorry.
That's good, man. This genre has intrigued, disturbed, delighted, aroused, and confused us. In short, we're totally, hopelessly in love with it. So every episode, we invite you, listener, to join us for a drink as we discuss a film after hours selected from one of our painstakingly curated subsections of the video store. That's right, subsections. Mickey, can you kind of explain what I mean by these subsections for those who are unlucky enough to maybe have grown up without a mom and pop independent video store?
Oh, well, sure. So back in the day, before there was streaming, before the big blockbuster takeover, there were these independent video stores that would stock the classics, new releases, but more importantly, they had a robust horror section. And to appease the appetite of movie nerds like me and Michelangelo, they would even work directly with distributors to fill the shelves. There was that much content they had to put up there for us to devour. And these mom and pop shops were responsible for taking the horror genre from limited theater runs and late night drive-ins to every small town in America. But what really made these video stores special were the people working in the store. They were stocking the shelves, curating personalized sections, and making recommendations based on conversations, not on algorithms. So here at the return slot of horror, we keep that spirit alive and strong. Welcome to the store, listener, or better yet, welcome to the conversation.
That was beautifully put. I don't I don't
know that I did the right thing.
No. So, what you said was perfect. But the subsections meaning,
sure.
And this ties into what you said.
Absolutely. So you're a part of our conversation, and part of that is us going through the subsections of our video store. These sections are painfully and painstakingly curated, and we will have sections that are really personal to us. Sections like child frights. They'll have films that scared us as children. We'll have sections like the King Tyrion collection, our picks for the best adapted Stephen King films. That's just a sample of our sections, and they go on and on. And the section we're in right now, Michelangelo.
Yeah, the section we're in right now is Werewolf.
Werewolf.
For those of you who get that joke, God bless you.
Werewolf?
There. What? Werewolf.
Yeah, so in our video store, much like others that follow this suit, you could spend all day trying to find a film like Monster Squad. You got to talk to the people who work there. You got to build a relationship. You got to join the conversation. So like Mickey said, this week we find ourselves in the Werewolf section of the video store. But I must admit, I'm pulling a fast one on you a little bit. You're also going to find our film tonight, the Scream Factory Blu-ray release from 2019 in the King Tyrion section. And you will also find the Paramount release on VHS from 1986 in the Child Fright section, right? And then you will also find the Paramount DVD from 2002 in the aforementioned section we are discussing tonight, Werewolf.
Werewolf.
So I just had to talk some more about King. And I
Yeah.
thought this was a good, like, I get to talk more about King, and we get to discuss a section of the video store that includes some monsters.
Yeah, I love it. This is a classic monster. Um, here's what I'll say. You got Stephen King, who is going to be dripping all over this store, right? And then you got your big classic universal monsters like the werewolf. So it's only fitting that as we go out of the King Tyrion collection, that we wean ourselves off of King by doing more King.
More King.
More King.
It's
How do
just
you
I'm gonna
wean?
do a
Yeah.
little heroin,
Yeah.
and then that'll wean myself off the
It's
heroin.
it's like Hair of
Yeah,
the Dog. After you've had a night of bending or binging a lot of
yeah.
Stephen King, you got to have a little dose of Stephen King to get off Stephen King.
It works, but it is the first step towards alcoholism for
That is
sure.
very true. That is very true.
So I've never okay, I hear it works. I don't know from firsthand experience if it works because I know I've heard that that's the first step towards alcoholism, drink
Yeah.
responsibly. So I've never done it. And
Yeah.
speaking of alcoholism, Mickey, what's your spooky cocktail creation for this?
A drink called the Peacemaker. This is how you make a Peacemaker. It's
Okay.
15 ounces of Coca-Cola, or it doesn't have to be Coca-Cola. It could be any cola that you prefer. It could be
Pepsi,
Pepsi.
maybe? Coke or Pepsi? It's gotta be Coke or
Coke or
Pepsi.
Pepsi. For
If
this
it's for the
movie,
movie we're talking about, it's
it's
gotta be
Coke or
Coke or
Pepsi.
Pepsi.
So then you do that. You take 3 cloves, 3 cardamom pods, 2 whole star anise, 1
Anus.
large anise. It's anise, isn't it? Anise?
No, it's
Star
anus.
Yeah, it's anise. 1 large
No, it's
cinnamon
you were
stick.
right. I'm sorry, I'm being
I actually think it is. I think it is pronounced anus, or
it's
anise.
Uranus. It's
Yeah,
Uranus.
that's it. 1 large cinnamon stick, 1 sprig of fresh rosemary. This is a very involved drink.
Yeah.
Then once you combine all that and you reduce it down by boiling it, you get yourself this really beautiful rosemary spiced cola syrup. Then you add that to 1.5 ounces of Wild Turkey 101. Make sure and take a swig out of the
Ooh.
bottle as you're pouring it in. Half an ounce of scotch, 1/4 ounce lemon juice, 1 dash of Angostura bitters. And then for garnish, you want to shave a cinnamon stick down into a tiny little baseball bat. And if you have the time, you can etch the word peacemaker into the cinnamon stick. Then add 1/8 teaspoon activated charcoal powder, stir with a silver spoon, sprinkle with some dry ice on top to create a fog effect, and serve during a full moon.
That is I gotta have one of those. That's involved. That
Yeah.
is involved.
That's why you only do it once every full moon. You can't do
Yeah.
that every evening. That's like
No.
half your evening right there.
If you have a drinking problem, start drinking those because you're not gonna be able to overconsume
Yeah.
those.
No, one and done.
I'm gonna make a big batch of that for Halloween next year.
I love that. Love that.
Like a big
Is it
cauldron.
is it safe to drink dry ice?
So yes and no. You don't want the dry ice to actually touch your mouth or to drink it. That's bad. But if it's in the concoction that you've made and you don't drink it, it's safe. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, it
So you have to
does.
be careful. You have to be careful with it. But it is. I
All
mean,
right.
it's fucking cool. It's
Oh
fucking
man,
cool.
so cool.
Uh, when we met in at the acting conservatory we went to, my mother, God bless her, sent me steaks because we had no money for food.
Yeah.
She sent me some Omaha steaks, and there was
Oh,
dry
incredible.
ice. And were you with me when I made like the explosive uh, uh, device that I made that I threw out the window of the Stratford Arms, which is
I don't
mentioned
remember that.
in Catcher in the Rye,
I do not
where we
remember
were
that.
living on the Upper West Side. But
Of
it's just
course.
like a empty plastic bottle. It wasn't a glass bottle.
Okay.
But I made like a it just makes like a loud noise. And this is literally right before September 11th.
Oh
A
man.
different a
Yeah, you
different
couldn't
world
do
we were
yeah,
living
different
in,
world.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, anyways, that's
What are you
amazing.
what are you having? Did you get
So
a cocktail together for this thing?
I got well, I'm not drinking the cocktail. I'm having part of the cocktail, but my
Okay.
cocktail is called riding the silver bullet.
I like that. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's a Coors Light, which is the silver bullet of beers.
Absolutely. 100%.
I don't believe Coors Light is advertised in this movie, but
No, but
Coors
Coors is. Yeah.
Coors and Budweiser are. Interesting fact about Coors Light, got the nickname the Silver Bullet because when they started making them, the factory workers gave them the nickname because they looked like all the bullets in a is it a bandito? Is that what it is? Where it's got like all the bullets on
Oh,
the
yeah,
belt?
yeah.
Yeah, they looked like that, and that's how it got the name. And it's that with a shot of Patron, so kind of like a Boilermaker,
Yeah.
but with Coors Light and Patron Silver, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
So it's the antithesis of your drink.
I love that. No, I
Right?
like that we have 2 spooky cocktails.
We have got 2 spooky cocktails that
Yours,
they're
man, I could
totally
have
different.
I could have yours all night long.
You gotta be
Mine,
careful.
yeah.
That tequila will sneak up on you, brother.
Oh, sure it will.
So yes.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the film we're talking about tonight.
Mhm.
The 1985 cult classic Silver Bullet, also known as The Only Clue Is It the Full Moon,
Mhm.
which is the correct Italian pronunciation of the Italian release. Now, this is based on the 1983 Stephen King novella or novelette. I never know which is
Yeah.
which. Cycle of the Werewolf. And this is directed by Dan Addis, written by King, produced by the infamous Dino De Laurentiis, and starring Gary Busey, Everett McGill, Corey Haim, Megan Follows, Terry O'Quinn, and some other really amazing character actors as well.
Yeah. Really, really
Um,
nice.
Whose pick was this, Mickey?
Yours. You were really hot on this one.
Yes,
You
I
really
was.
wanted to do this.
Yes, I wanted to do this in the
I want you to know,
King Tyrion section.
yeah, he wanted to do this so bad that he formed another section in the store just to be able to do this. So yeah, so why were you why'd you choose Silver Bullet? What was the call?
So I never saw this completely as a kid.
Hmm.
I like caught parts of it. And this is a movie, I don't know about kids today, but when I was a kid, this movie had a huge effect on me in like how uh serious in its tone I took it to be.
Right.
Right? I didn't get any of the cheesiness or the corniness or the culty campy elements of it. For me, uh its original attention, I think, in its story really hit with me. It was very, very scary. Anytime, and you've talked about this with like Monster Squad, anytime there's a movie where there's kids,
Yeah.
right? And you're a kid, you just automatically like, I'm connected with that character. And Corey Haim is like
So
really
charming.
brilliant in this movie.
So good.
He's fucking great in this movie. It's a
Agreed.
very underrated performance in my book.
I agree. A physical performance. I mean, like I'm just saying,
Yeah,
is like he's really handling like the disability pretty well. Because I was like kind of watching for that a little bit to be like, well, I'm sure he's gonna, but he was really good and very like sticking that. I thought he did a really good job for a
yeah,
young actor.
yeah. And I think everybody's performance in this across the board is wonderful. Now, I usually mention this a little earlier, but like Mickey, we're not film critics. We're
No,
not film historians. We're not going to do like a
no,
deep historical dive on this film.
mm-mm.
There are other podcasts that do that, and that's
Right.
great. What we're doing more is like shining a light on our love of the film
Mm-hmm.
and how it's affected us and how these films overall sort of bond us in our
Mm-hmm.
friendship.
Sure. I mean,
Um,
we may say
so,
facts about a film that are not true.
oh, that's
It's
definitely a
happened.
possibility. I mean, that's
It's
a
happened.
guarantee because we're not getting this stuff from the Encyclopedia Britannica, right?
Yeah.
We're getting this stuff from the internet. So,
Yeah.
and
And
commentaries.
and hazy memories that I have as a kid of something I heard, Like, that's
Yeah,
where some of my knowledge I'm pulling from is, like, I remember
yeah.
somewhere someone telling me this thing. Yeah. So
The
that's not what we're here for. We're the video store you go to. We're the local guys that you talk to about movies. We love them, and that's why you talk to us about them. Because
yeah,
we
and
our love for these films will hopefully, I hope if you haven't seen the films, I'm not really sure why you're listening, but I hope that maybe our conversation will inspire you to watch some of these films.
yes, beautifully said. Now that said,
Mhm.
we might from time to time have a critique or a critical thought. We do not
Sure.
think that we could have done it better,
No.
right? But, like, especially with this film, and, I love this movie so much, but it's not perfect. It's got a
No.
lot of issues, questions, concerns, um, and we've talked about this before, Mickey, as well. It's a soup. It's, like, impossible to make a movie. It's so
Oh,
fucking hard.
it's Herculean.
Yeah, you gotta collaborate with so many people, you gotta get these things together, it's very difficult, and
Mhm.
sometimes what would have been a good movie is less than because of production issues,
Yeah, I mean,
which
sometimes movies are made in committees, not made by a single, auteur or, not that any movie is really made by a single auteur, but what I mean is that sometimes visions don't even we don't even get to see the final vision. So trust me, a film, whether I have a critique of a film or not, it does not change the fact that I am just in awe of the fact that they were able to pull a film off. I have attempted this in my life to put together a film, and I stop on step 1. So to even see it through, I mean, honestly, to see it through is monumental.
Yeah,
So there's
it's
not gonna be any of that kinda hate here. I think that, every
yeah,
filmmaker is going for something, they're putting their artistry and heart into it, sometimes, most of the time. But yeah, so I'm here to
that's the
just
idea, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here to go with it.
Yeah, and, to what you said, I think you do need like you need a single creative vision to push through,
Mhm.
and then a team of people to support that vision. And when that
Yeah.
vision is compromised and controlled by people who uh, are more in the monetary
Mhm.
section
Mhm.
of how the film is made, which is an important section. You got to have money to make a movie.
Sure.
Um, then those things get compromised. So anyways,
Yeah.
talking about
We could
hazy
go on this
childhood
for yeah,
memories.
we could
Yeah,
go on for hours on this alone. Because you get me started on movies that you made to make money. We could start talking about Friday 13th. We could start talking about some of the things that end up
and
being
we got a few
great.
episodes like
We
that.
gotta be
Check that
go
out.
back. That's a Friday 13th episode. You'll hear all about people who make movies to make money and end up making something amazing.
Yeah. So, childhood hazy memories I have of this, were horrific. And eventually I watched it as an adult, and, like, God, I always have such a fun time watching this movie. It's, Saturday night sleepover monster movies
Mhm.
at the drive-in or
Absolutely.
something. This is
Mhm.
this is a fucking fun movie,
Yeah.
despite some of its silly flaws that I find in it. I think the origin story, the cycle of the werewolf, which have you read, Mickey?
I've not read the book. No, I've not read it.
So this is, it starts out as like a calendar that Bernie Wrightson is going to do. He is an amazing artist. They work together on Creepshow. If you own I own Creepshow. He has that. I sent you some of the, images
Mhm.
to look at
Oh, yeah.
of all the pictures, and so they're making this calendar, and King, being King, the
Sure.
prolific writer that he is like, "I feel too constrained by having to write just a blurb for each month," so they create this novelette. And,
Yeah.
before he's even finished writing it, he sells the rights as a movie, right? And Dino De
Yeah.
Laurentiis, I think, how many films did he direct, this year in '85? Or not direct, how many, Stephen King
Produced in 85.
adaptations did he produce? I think it
Uh,
was 3? 3 or
yeah,
4?
Cat's Eye, Silver Bullet. I'm not really sure of the other one.
I had them memorized in my head, and of course, I forgot to write them down, and, I don't have them in front of me, but the point is, Theodore De Laurentiis was financing a lot of Stephen King adaptations at this time. So much so that he was financing one on something that wasn't even made yet.
Yeah.
I think this uh, King is the first to do this concept with a werewolf story. Most werewolf stories, you have an allegory of
Mhm.
substance abuse where we
Yep.
know who the person is. They can't remember what they did the night before.
Right.
They they're horrified by their actions when they realize it, right?
Mhm.
But this is we got the mystery element of it.
Yep.
What happens to a small community when they are being terrorized by a serial killer, which that was like starting to become a mainstream sort of thing that was known now with all of the terrible serial killers that were happening around this time.
Mhm.
Um, what happens when a serial killer is killing your friends and your neighbors, but they're simultaneously taking away the innocence of your small town, and once innocence is lost, it's never replaced again. And what's left in its wake is uh, suspicion and fear, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think at the heart of the story that he wrote, you have these elements, and they're slightly touched upon in this movie, but this movie gets a little silly at times, and the
Sure.
logic doesn't always make sense.
Sure.
In that sort of wonderful, like Italian way. You know what I mean? If you've seen a lot of, like, Italian horror films, it's
Yeah.
like, it's fine. It's just it's gotta look cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, um, what do you have, a history to Silver Bullet?
Yeah, Silver Bullet is not gonna be this is not a movie I've watched a lot of times. This is probably this watch that we did, was the first time I've seen it since I was a kid. But,
Oh, wow.
it's definitely one that I watched with, my neighbor Danny. We got together and
Danny.
watched Silver Bullet, yep. We
Please, can you quickly explain who Danny is for the person and listening for the first time?
So growing up next door, to me were these wonderful neighbors, Danny and Kaylin. And as a kid, I would spend every weekend at their house just to get away from my brothers and my sister. And they would bring me in, and Danny, because he never had a son, Caitlin never had a son. I was like the son they never had. But rather than like Danny treating me like necessarily a son, it was more like a little buddy. He would like introduce me to horror films way too young. We would watch action movies all the time. We would watch, Married with Children and Living Color, The
You
Simpsons.
watched Whoa!
Yeah,
The
Herman's Head,
Simpsons?
all these things I watched with him, and then he would allow me once a year to invite over all my buddies for a Halloween sleepover and watch scary movies. So many of my first scary movie watches were at these Halloween sleepovers with Danny. So kudos to him. He was a collector of scary masks, of comic books and baseball cards, and so much of my personality has been crafted from having him as a neighbor. So you'll hear him come up often when we're talking about Stephen King and any horror films from the 1980s, especially ones with kids. He loved having me watch horror films where kids were the heroes. I think in his mind he was trying to kind of help me see that you can be a hero, that you can be the one that saves this town if it needs it. He instilled a lot in me. I really cherish those memories and what he gave to my life. So this is one that we watched together, and I was actually not that excited to watch it again because I was like, I remember all the beats, It's like, but it was so fun rewatching. Corey Haim is incredible. He's so likable. He's so charming. I forget how wonderful he was as a child actor. Gary Busey is at his best Busey for me. Just the film was just joyful. It really is fun, and you're rooting for the kids. The sister brother relationship is fantastic. Give me a film where I'm rooting for the kids, and you've already pierced that hard spot in my heart, and I'm gonna automatically love you. If you give me good child actors playing good, well written children characters that are taking on the big bad, while the rest of the town's lost in their adulting. I think it's a really fun film.
Um, now, are you familiar with Don Coscarelli?
No.
So Don Coscarelli directed Bubba Hotep,
Oh yeah,
Beastmaster,
no, Bubba
The
Hotep. Yeah.
Phantasm films.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so he was originally attached to direct, and it kind of fell
Yeah.
apart.
That'd been
Dino De
interesting.
Laurentiis, yeah, it would have. Dino De Laurentiis, not known as the easiest guy to work with.
Yeah.
Um, as a great example, I think of a comparison of someone who successfully that went through uh, directing a film with Dino De Laurentiis, had a terrible experience, but still managed to have keep a career is David Lynch.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that Coscarelli never really got um, to. I mean, he's had an amazing career. He's made like 5 Phantasm movies. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? John dies at the end. But my point is, I feel like like we missed out on some Coscarelli stuff, and I, no shade on Dan Addis who directed this, but he just couldn't. Like De Laurentiis, could be such a,
Yeah.
a very charming at first to pull you in, and then like you have a nightmarish experience making a
Mhm.
film. Unlike Roger Corman, who typically trusted
Hands
his.
off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you've proven yourself. You've worked your
Mhm.
way up to a certain place. As long as you remain within the budget and then
Yep.
within the
On
shooting
time.
days,
Yep.
and you have boobies and
Yeah.
violence, we're
Yeah.
good to go.
Slumber Party Massacre 2. Go see it. But yeah, no, I hear you.
Speaking of Monster Squad, I think the werewolf in this movie needs to team up with Dracula for Monster Squad,
Yeah.
right? Because that Dracula, spoilers for Monster Squad, that
Yeah.
Dracula loves dynamite. He loves to
Yeah.
kill people with dynamite, not
It's
his fangs.
his powers. And this wolf loves to kill people with tiny bats. Well, not tiny bats. I guess it's a full-size
It's a
bat. It's
badass
a
bat. It's
full-size
a
bat. Yeah, it's
badass
a
bat.
full-size
Yeah.
the peacemaker. Yeah, but no, it's like, yeah, that's that could have been budgetary, I believe.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, like, so, Carlo Rambaldi, an Academy Award winning, at the time, he was like the world's greatest visual, special effects artist. Like a great reputation that was like, unfortunately, kind of like, a little tarnished for sure by this film. De Laurentiis had wanted originally to hire a dancer to play the werewolf in the costume, which is a great idea, which
Yeah.
is proven in 2002's Dog Soldiers. Have you ever seen that?
I've not seen Dog Soldiers, no.
That's a good werewolf movie, low budget. And in fact, those wolves look a lot like Bernie Wrightston's wolves. Uh, but according to the research I've done, that's Everett McGill in the suit when you
Okay.
see and the suit he didn't have a lot of time to really do it right. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like it's unfortunately the werewolf in this movie is lacking. We got a lot of although the transformation at the end is I thought like holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, there were it's for what it is, it's good. I think that you get a good payoff at the end with the wolf. I think they also do a lot of things to hide the wolf throughout the film, so that's always a smarter choice than showing something that's not fully developed or done.
But
So, yeah.
it gets old. It gets old. It's
Yeah, it
like
does.
it's a
It
lot
does.
of wolf. It's like someone has what are those long gloves that women used to wear that would
Yeah,
go to their elbows?
sure.
It's like one of those gloves up to the elbow, and it's just wolf really likes to like
Grab
slowly
things.
scrape on people
Right,
and like
right.
very
Yeah, I
cat
was
like
gonna say, I
this
was gonna
wolf.
say it's similar. It's like, the wolves have paws, right? It's like, this is not like they're not it's not really their thing to grab a bat, right? You're not gonna see a canine grab a bat, but this wolf has, like, appendages. It's
Uh-huh.
like,
What is a werewolf?
it's a
So I'll buy that
werewolf.
it has a thumb and it can
Yeah,
you get to be creative with how you create your werewolf. So
that
I could buy
yeah,
that,
I
but
can
it gets ridiculous when
yeah,
when
you get
when
yeah.
Terry O'Quinn gets murdered with a baseball bat. on a pile of Pepsi and Coke bottles. You know. So, by the way, I have a theory
Okay.
about Terry O'Quinn.
Okay.
In this Terry O'Quinn's character in this film.
Yeah,
So,
the sheriff. Sheriff Joe Holler.
yes. So, Terry O'Quinn does
Okay.
not die. He survives. And in fact, he ends up paralyzed. All right? He
Okay.
takes a flight to have an experimental surgery done, but crashes and lands on this island where he's able to walk again. Are you following me at all here?
I'm not following you at all. He
Okay,
crashes
this
on an
is
island where he's able to walk. Is this a TV show that you're referencing?
yes, Lost.
Is this Lost? Okay,
This is
yes,
Lost. Did
yes.
you watch Lost?
Okay. But I know Terry O'Quinn's in it.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, no, I am one of those weirdos that never by the time Lost was so popular, I was such a contrarian to it because it had become so popular, and because I wasn't early on it, I was like, I refused it. I was like,
well,
now that yeah.
if so for those of you listening who have watched Lost, it's one of those shows that like starts out so good and it is so disappointing. It's so disappointing
Oh man. Yeah,
eventually,
I've heard.
but
I've heard.
it has great performances and it had its heyday, but it doesn't go anywhere satisfying. So
Mhm.
Terry O'Quinn,
Yeah.
he's on the island, he's able to walk
Mhm.
again. Why is he able to walk again? Because he has a little werewolf blood in him. Right?
Mm.
But
Okay.
he never really wolfs out, except in that pilot episode, he turns into the polar bear. That's why we never see that polar bear again. This would make more sense to you if you've seen it,
If
but
I've
there's a
seen the
polar
show.
bear that never shows up again because
Okay.
he's not a werewolf. He's a like you could be a
He's a werebear.
something. He's a
He's a
werebear,
werebear.
but he never fully bears out except for that once,
Got
right?
it. Totally makes sense. Totally makes
And
sense.
well, it totally makes sense when you
Mm.
compare it to the explanations were offered through the show itself. What I said is solid and works. Okay.
Lost. All those Lost fans are like, is that like people? This is canon. J.J. Abrams told us.
Yeah. I
This
was
whole
also
thing started with silver bullet.
I was also going to work in at some point he becomes like a stepfather and
Yeah.
you've seen
Yeah.
those movies.
Stepfather. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen
Yeah.
Stepfather. I've not seen Lost. That shows you where I went in the movie store section. I was watching those movies. Um, so yeah,
So
you've
what's
explained Lost.
I've explained Lost. Um, what's stood out for you during this watch? What was stuff that was like, yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, I'll tell you, there were two things I kind of that really caught me. Again, I'm going to go on the Gary Busey of it. I love the relationship of Marty and Uncle Red. Uncle Red to
Mhm.
me is like he's very representative of that male figure in our lives that we attach ourselves to because our dads have to be our dads, right? They have to be kind of like walk a straight and narrow, lay down some rules and regulations. But then we see that other guy in our life that treats us a little more adult, that like kind of like walks that edge of is this appropriate or not,
Mhm.
and that's and you I'm not saying you idolize those guys, but those become people that you think actually see you better because you feel like they're taking you a little more serious. They're not treating you like a little kid,
Yeah.
and I love that relationship. That is definitely one of the main takeaways. And the Uncle Redisms are great.
Uh
And then
I
go ahead.
I just want to stay on Uncle Red for a second. Uh having a figure an aunt and an uncle in your life or a figure that
Mhm,
fulfills that role whether you're blood related or not I think is super crucial because like you said I'm a professional uncle. I have 9 nieces
mhm.
and nephews and you know I'm not responsible for raising them. I get to
Right.
have a good time with them. I get to impart whatever wisdom that I might have on them, and I get to have a good time with them, and I talk to them, or at least I try
Mhm.
talk to them like equals. Because, most of your life as a kid, you're getting talked down to by everybody,
Right.
especially adults. And to have a relationship with an adult where like they do wildly irresponsible
Mhm.
things, like give you a motorcycle that goes 90 miles
90
an hour
miles
when
an
you're
hour.
paralyzed, and then gives you
Yeah,
fireworks to
yeah.
fucking
They the
explode by yourself.
puts puts a motor on your wheelchair that is so heavy you would never actually be able to wheel your own chair, and then makes it gas powered. So if you run out of gas, buddy, you are stuck where you are. You are one giant. You are like an immovable piece
And this
of
no
something.
cell phones,
Oh,
no
no
cell
cell
phones.
phones. Nope, nope.
Like,
But it.
would
Oh,
you
it
ever
looked.
leave like, give a child, um, that amount of fireworks and go have a good time by
Go.
yourself?
Yeah,
There's a serial kill like, if it you know, we'll get to the werewolf part of it, but, like, at this point,
they don't know.
4th of July is canceled because
Yeah,
there is somebody or something
something,
murdering, whether
somebody.
it's an
Yeah,
animal or a person, murdering people horrifically
yeah,
in their town.
yes.
And he is giving his nephew dangerous fireworks and a
Yes.
dangerous motorcycle to go out by himself at night with this thing killing
But
people to
this
go
also
blow up this stuff.
this also shows like how dumb a kid is. Like even me saying like you idolize this guy, right? I'm like
Oh,
every
yeah.
other adult in that town has made a logical choice to shut down 4th of July so they don't have kids walking around and getting killed at night. And then the one guy, Uncle Red's like, sneak out and do these fireworks when you get a chance. Totally against all the logic of all the adults in that town. And of course, that would be the adult that I would gravitate towards and be like, see, he
Of
gets me.
course.
Yeah.
I want fireworks. He's
I
giving
want
me
fireworks. Give
fireworks.
me
This is
fireworks.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
want to go fast because I can't walk. So he gives me a death trap or death machine that I
he
can
he's
ride
even
down
he
the.
even says he's like when he rides when he like shoots off on it.
Yeah.
Gary Busey's like that kid's dead meat.
Uncle Red, man.
Uncle Red.
Uh,
He's so I
is it?
cherish
Yeah,
my role as that figure in
right.
my nieces and nephews' lives. But I definitely like Uncle Red makes some great points, right, with his mom. He's
Yep.
like he's more than just a paralyzed kid,
Sure.
but his mom is totally right.
Yes.
Don't be drinking. He's drinking from a bottle of wild
Wild
turkey, and
turkey.
he's what is that? At least half a bottle
Oh,
he's
just
consumed.
slogging, throwing him back, man. I was like, wow, he's getting really trashed.
He's getting trashed with his
Yeah.
nephew, and it's like it's cool,
And they're playing. Are they,
right?
are they playing poker? They're playing some form of poker.
I think they're playing rummy or so. They're playing something.
Okay, okay.
They're playing some
I
sort of
figured they were
card game.
playing some kind of. I figured it had to be something poker. I'm surprised there weren't like nudie women on the cards. That would have made it that extra Uncle Red
That's the
step.
Uncle Red's weekend where well he would never he can't keep a
Oh
relationship
no, I
together,
can't.
Uncle
No,
Red.
I don't see
Um
how. The guy seems completely put together. Drinking
Did
what? Say that. This is what I mean. When you're around, even I don't care how crazy the uncle is. There's still an element of like, I'm not going to give them my 100% wildness because I am the adult in this room. So what you're seeing when Uncle Red's slogging out of the Wild Turkey 101 and playing cards with Marty is you're seeing his. This is me being responsible with kids' side. So you can imagine when there are no kids
yeah,
around what these poor wives of his had to deal with.
yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely, absolutely. Now Mickey, did you ever shoot fireworks at your siblings or friends?
absolutely. Yep.
What would you shoot at? Yeah,
Roman
those are the
candles pointed directly at them.
no concern. I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna
No.
get him in the eye. No
Yeah.
eyewear
Oh,
protection, no."
my sister, we would take sparklers, light sparklers, and get behind her if she didn't know, and we would try to light her hair on fire with them.
What?
Yeah,
That's really cruel, man.
it
Was
is.
she
No, it was. But we were just like messing with her, and then she would hear like a little bit of hair would singe. She'd go, ow. And we'd be like, because those things are popping on her neck too.
Yeah.
But
Thank God she didn't wear Aquanet,
no,
which
yeah, yeah.
right?
Actually, it's a good
Aquanet,
point. Yeah.
she woulda just went up in flames.
Yeah. I mean, we were not nice to her, nor were my brothers nice to me either. They would like, I can promise you, little Mickey shooting Roman candles was not nearly as accurate as my brothers who were like really shooting me
older,
like,
like, yeah, yeah,
wiser.
yeah. We share this in common, Mickey, in that it was a violent dog eat dog world with the
Mhm.
siblings
Mhm.
vying for affection and status. Um, and I also regrettably like treated my sister when I was a little kid like
Mhm.
trash because I went through a real like I hate
Yeah.
girls phase.
I pushed
Cooties.
my I pushed my sister out of a window one time. It's the one
What?
thing it's the only time, and I think that I went too
you
far.
you gotta you gotta tell me what this story
So,
is.
it's actually pretty sad.
You
It's actually
pushed
pretty
her
sad. This is not a
oh
funny story, this is
no.
pretty sad.
Oh no.
So, unlike Marty and Jane, who have, I think, a really great loving relationship.
The amazing Megan Follows, who
Yep.
you had told me I didn't recognize her, but who is
Anne
she,
of Green
Mickey?
Gables. Anne of Green
Anne of Green
Gables.
Gables, which you haven't seen yet, right? Your wife
No, no, I
pointed this
have not
out
seen
to you.
yeah, my wife gave me that look, the same look I give people when they tell me they haven't seen The Lost Boys. I the show came on and immediately Molly saw it and she goes, "Oh, that's Anne of Green Gables." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And she's like, "Mickey, it's Anne of Green Gables." I was like, "Yeah, okay." And she's like, the movie." I was like, I don't know I've never seen that movie." And her look was like, "Who are you? Who is
Y
this
sh
person I'm married to?"
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Right,
and I was like,
rightly so. And
"Sorry, I don't know."
if your reaction is anything like your ex-wife's reaction to Always Sunny in Philadelphia, you might be looking at a divorce when you
I
watch that.
know, I know, I know.
I will tell you, I watched Anne of Green Gables with I had roommates at one point that were two amazing women, and same reaction. You've never seen Anne of Green, and I hadn't.
Yeah.
And then we watched it. Have a box of tissues.
Hmm.
It's so good.
So good.
It's so. We're gonna have a movie night. It's so good.
Yeah.
But continue your story. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, no,
You
so, okay. My sister she's 5 years older than I am. So, she was a teenager, and she had started dating a boy that my parents were not approving of, so they didn't want her to see the boy. And one night, I heard all this kerfuffle in her bedroom, and I just I don't know why, but I just opened the door, be like, "What's going on?" Because I was the
That's the
little
brother
brother.
move. I did
Yeah,
the same stuff.
I was the little brother that was also like, "Hey, don't you be getting up to nothing. Mom and dad are gonna get you." So I opened the doors. "What are you doing?" And she was sneaking out of the window to sneak out of the house. And I said, "No, you're not." And I went and I pushed her as hard as I could. As she was like halfway out the window, she goes tumbling, falls into the backyard. Really like was like, "Oh," like knocked her breath out. My parents were like,
How many
"What the hell?"
stories? How many
2.
stories? Up
She's on the
to?
second. She's on the
Jesus.
second floor. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I don't
And your
know.
parents were like, "What?" I'm sorry, I interrupted
Well,
you.
they woke them up, they went out there, and she was in so much trouble. Guess who wasn't in trouble?
The kid who pushed his sister out the window. Was she okay? Did she get hurt?
I mean, they knocked her breath out. She definitely was hurting. I'm
Did
lucky
she
she didn't fall on her neck or her arm. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
yeah.
super lucky.
I
I have
know.
I'm not gonna get into
I
these
s
stories, but how many times did you almost kill your siblings
oh,
or, like,
I'm sure.
paralyze them or like,
Well,
cut off an appendage?
but I will say the ratio for me is very different. Like, the amount of times they almost killed me versus the amount of times I almost killed them, it was much more weighted on the side of
It's a
me.
vicious cycle.
They almost killed me way more times than I ever almost killed them. For sure.
Well you're the little one,
Yeah, I know.
and you're
I
adopted.
yeah, I know.
So
I was
that's
yeah,
gotta play a heavy
sure,
thing on your
sure.
conscience, like, "I'm adopted. Why are they
Yeah,
always trying to kill me?"
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But to
yeah.
them, they're like, "No, this means I love you."
To them, well, no, to 2 of them, yeah, but one of them was, I think, even one of them was like, "I don't know if I want you to be my brother anymore." Like, I didn't hey, listen,
Oh, that's so
I
sad. That's so fucking sad because I know exactly what that I have a brother just like
yeah,
that. Oh god.
there was one that to this day, I always have to question his motives. Like, as adults, I'm like, "Why are you saying that? Why do you want me to come down here and visit you? Why are you up here in Pittsburgh? What's the game you're playing on me?" Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I am so
So
sorry for your sister, and I'm so
I'm
sorry
sorry
I am
also.
so sorry that she made you push her out the window
Listen,
and
I want you.
traumatized you.
I seriously do feel bad for that. I think about it all the time. I've apologized so many times as an adult, just saying like, remember that time I pushed you out the window? Number one, I'm glad you didn't die. Number two, I'm really sorry. I don't know what was going through my head then. It just seemed like the thing to do.
At least you didn't shoot fireworks at her as well.
Yeah. Didn't set her hair on fire, then throw her out the window.
Yeah, and, so going back to the movie, I was at odds with, like, okay, Corey Haim thinks there's a werewolf,
Yeah.
right? Marty thinks there's a werewolf, yet he goes out on his own to shoot off those fireworks, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Kids you reminded me, kids
Yep.
are dumb.
They're dumb.
And they're impulsive, and they're just like,
Impulsive, yeah.
I want fireworks, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna go shoot these off.
Tunnel vision's what he had.
Yeah, and that scene on the bridge he is brilliant.
Mhm.
He looks fucking scared. And
Oh, yeah.
RIP Corey Haim.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's so unfortunate that, he's got some great movies. We love them, but God, what a tragic,
Yeah.
dark
Well,
story
that just
his
to
is.
yeah, that's a tough life for any person, and, I just can't even imagine it, and he was. I mean, he delivered a beautiful performance, and I think that, it's safe to say that there is as an actor, there's a lot of you in the parts that you play. So I know that there was a sensitive, soft, sweet human being in there that, it really is a bummer. Really is a
Eh,
bummer.
yeah, before all that innocence was taken away from him.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring it down.
That's right. If me throwing my sister out the window didn't already bring us down, I mean,
Speaking of sisters,
yeah,
one of the things I find uh, um, uh, difficult about this movie is the voiceover of the sister.
gotcha. Yeah.
I feel like it's at odds with the fun, low budget drive-in tone,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? It's like all of a sudden we're getting like after school special music score.
Yeah.
Like it's like and it's on record that Dino De Laurentiis was like, I'm gonna make a werewolf movie, but also ET. I think
Yeah.
that's why he got Carlo Rambaldi, who created ET.
Well, and also, the director was a second unit on ET.
Oh, okay, there
Yeah,
you go.
he worked with Spielberg on ET, so he was like right out of that Amblin, wheelhouse. So he was coming in, bringing
Mm,
some of that Amblin magic, trying to sprinkle it on there. It has some Amblin feels. You can, there are scenes in that film that feel like it was part of, a Spielberg production.
and those don't, but in a bad way because they don't
Yeah,
fit in. They
they
don't
don't fit
fit
in.
in
Yeah,
well, right? This is a
right.
Stephen King, Dino De Laurentiis adaptation. It's gotta feel like Cat's Eye. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Um,
yeah.
So what was you said you had 2 things, right? So we talked about, Uncle Red.
Uncle Red. Yeah. The
What
the
was
other
the other
thing,
thing that really mm,
it was more of like a summation of. So this about me, but the listener may not. My favorite of the Universal monsters is the werewolf. Um, and for where this movie kind of misses an opportunity for me personally, is I love the story of the struggle of the curse, right? The curse of
yeah,
the werewolf, that struggle to me is fascinating. It's interesting. It always grips me because, you watch that human either fight against the innate behaviors of a werewolf, or you find them lean into them and uh come to terms with, you know, fully committing to those desires and those wants and doing evil things. So I love that story. But the one thing this movie does that really captures how great the werewolf myth is the silver bullet. When he goes in and he gets the silver bullet made, and the
mm,
way that Mac, the guy who's like, pressing it down and getting the low grain 44 ready for him, I'm like, dude, fuck a steak, man. It's silver bullet all the way. Coolest way to kill a monster right there, man. Just
mhm.
it was a moment where I was like, yes, it's not just the werewolf struggle. It's also the silver bullet. It's like there's a specific thing you have to make that you have to get just right. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, obviously it's called Silver Bullet too. So, but no, that was just a thing where I just thought that scene between Uncle Red and Matt, and he gets the silver bullet, and he's like, I mean, it's just I can't remember what his exact words, but Uncle Red's like, I mean, it's just like a toy or something, and he's like, well, I mean, he's like, what would I use a 44 silver bullet for? And he's
Yeah, it's
like,
like a
to
yeah.
kill a werewolf. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
Mac knows.
He
Mac
knows.
knows. Yeah,
He knows what's going on. He
yeah.
knows what's going on.
So I
I
really, I
would
really like that part too.
have you ever, like, as, for those of you who might not know, he has served our country, so thank you for your service. So you've been around some guns. Have you ever come across a silver bullet?
Never. No.
I
I
would love
don't
to have
really
one, right?
I think so, but I'm not really sure what I'm not really sure what that's about. Like, I don't know that metal is I would have to do research. I'm sure that you can
It's very soft, so I do know, like, trying to make a bullet out of out of silver is
yeah,
flawed in that it's a very soft
okay,
material. So you would have to do it in a way in which the silver content would be much lower compared to
yeah.
whatever's usually in there.
Well, it's
Um,
usually lead in, like, a brass casing, right? So it's like
yeah,
the bullet itself is the lead, but it goes inside a casing, which is this, like, really nice, like, you know, brass casing.
yeah,
And that's what you typically use because the casing will have the charge in the bottom of it, and then it shoots the projectile, which is the lead. So I was wondering when I was watching, I was like, "That's a full silver bullet." It's like the silver casing and the
yeah.
silver, yeah. So I don't really know if there's any truth to that ever being an actual thing, but no, I've never seen anybody with a silver bullet. No.
I would love to have one just, like, on my shelf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Amongst things, just like an actual just like that where, like, this thing will not like, if you try to fire it, you'll probably,
Don't. Yeah.
like, blow up your gun,
Right.
so don't try to fire it, but, oh, man, an actual
Well,
silver bullet?
I think it would be cool to have like one of my back molars taken out.
Mm,
And in its place, thered just be a silver bullet back there that I can
a
pull in and
bullet,
out.
not
A
a tooth,
silver
a
bullet.
bullet,
No, a
and you
silver
pull it
bullet.
out
I do. I go, I'm like, just in case. Put
just
it
in
back.
case.
Freak. That would be the Uncle like Mickey move, right? They're like, my Uncle Mickey has a silver bullet. Is a fake tooth in the back of his mouth. I
No
don't
one would
know.
believe the kid, no one would believe the
I
kid.
know. But it would be one of
Um
those instances where it's like we're sitting there, I'm like 80 years old, and they're like, Uncle Mickey knew because here's a werewolf coming to get us.
Speaking of not believing, do you think your son could convince you that there is a werewolf killing people in your town?
Could my son convince me?
Yeah. Maybe not at the age he is now, but when he was a little bit younger, when he's Marty's age.
I will tell you, I don't know that he would convince me that it's real, but I think my son would be convincing enough for me to play along like Uncle Red and actually stay up all night with a silver bullet. I think I'd go as far as even getting a
Okay.
silver bullet and staying up all night with him just to either A, prove him wrong, or B, just to tell him that I do believe in him. I do believe him. Now, would my parents have believed me? Fuck no. There's no hell no.
If you're
My
a listener of the podcast, this all lines up perfectly.
There's absolutely no possible way they would have believed me.
That's a difficult thing to you gotta have
Yeah.
a special relationship to somebody, and even then, I think, like what you said is like, "Okay, I believe that you believe
Yeah.
for whatever reason,
Yes.
so I need to play along and hopefully disprove
Mhm.
and show you what's really going on.
Right.
But be
Yeah.
ready just in case." I've seen too many movies. Just in
Yeah.
case.
Just in case. Yeah, you
Just in
gotta be ready.
case.
You never know. I mean, you never really know.
Hey, man, Carl Sagan, we're made of stardust.
Yeah.
Who knows when there's gonna you never know. There could
Mhm.
be a werewolf, man.
Yeah.
Could
Well,
be.
I mean, I just remember with my kids when they were little, like the boogeyman or the things like I heard a noise under my bed. You know there's nothing there, but you still go, "Okay. All right, let me check it out for you, okay? Let me see what's going on." You go along with them because kids, when they're good kids, And not that I'm saying there's such thing as a bad kid. There's really no such thing as a bad kid. But kids, when you're close to them and you care for them, you do want to go on these journeys with them because
Mhm.
there's something fun on the other side of it. Regardless if there is an actual boogeyman or a werewolf or whatever, there's something fun on the other side. Maybe it's just a story that you guys share forever, but but you want to go along these rides. You want to meet them where they are.
Um, that as a person who's not a parent, um, if you've been listening, you'll know that I recently adopted 2 kittens for the store,
Mm,
and they're way more work than I thought they were gonna be, and one of them, Columbo, I'm starting to post them on our Instagram, which is the return slot underscore of horror pod on
that's it.
Instagram.
Pod.
I will post an image of Columbo. I think Columbo looks like the werewolf in this movie a little bit.
Yeah.
More feline-like, obviously, but she kinda looks like a werewolf, man.
Is there any way you can convince Columbo to grab a bat and like have like a bat raised above?
The only way I could convince her is if I said, "Don't touch the bat."
Yeah. It's automatic.
So this movie has something that I love, which is
Yeah.
Halloween,
Oh, it does.
right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Right?
great countdown to that. Yeah, what a great time to have. I think that the cycle of the werewolf and Halloween are perfect marriages, right? Perfect
Yeah,
mates.
yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, like, I get that, apparently Halloween is canceled in this town,
Yeah,
right? Because everything's canceled,
yeah.
but
Not into cancel culture, but yeah,
they're the parents leaving their children on Halloween night, on a full moon, while there is a serial killer at large with Uncle Red that I mean, despite Uncle Red has sort of proven to his sister that he's more responsible, that he cannot
he's trying. Yeah.
consume a bottle of wild turkey while hanging out, like he's sort of straightened out a little bit. But still, that's a hard pill to swallow for me.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, man, it just doesn't have that it doesn't have
Yeah.
that Halloween vibe
Yeah.
for it. You know, there's some decorations, but, like, obviously, it's not anywhere near October where they're
No.
shooting, and unfortunately, this movie is lacking that Maine feel. They like the
Hmm.
feel from a Stephen King
Well,
thing, and that's because De Laurentiis set up a little empire for himself in Virginia, where
well,
he was
that's what I was
shooting a
gonna
lot of
say.
these things.
There, there were a lot of actors with Southern accents for a Stephen King main story.
Some doing it convincingly, probably because they have it, and some maybe not so
Maybe
much.
not so much. Yeah.
Maybe not so
But so,
much.
but now, so it was the what's the name of the town? Tucker's Mill
Uh,
or
Tarker's
yeah,
Mill.
Tucker's Mill. Now, in the movie, are we to assume that is somewhere in the South, quote unquote, or are we
I
to
mean,
assume that it's in Maine because of Stephen King? Like, is
I
there
don't
any?
think it's
It's
well,
not even like addressed.
I
It's not a
mean,
thing.
we're not Stephen King is not the national treasure that he is now at that time, and
Right.
in fact, he's technically credited with, like, this is his first, attempt at adapting something to a
Yeah.
screenplay, even though he had planned not to. Um, some of the rumors out there will say this is technically his first adaptation,
Okay.
um, where he's adapting it himself. So we don't have the, history. We don't have the sort of like, "Oh, this has to be in Maine. It's a Stephen King story."
Right.
That isn't
Gotcha.
established yet. In fact, I mean, it's so established at this point that when he writes something, he has people who work for him whose sole job is essentially they are the, dramaturge or the
Yeah.
encyclopedias of, like,
Of
what
him.
connects to all of his work,
Yep.
like, what connects to Dark Tower? What connects
Hmm.
to this? Where is this in, relation
Right.
geographically to this? Like, that's their sole job because,
Yeah.
obviously, the guy can't keep track of
Well,
everything,
yeah,
right? So
it's like the
he needs
Star
help.
Wars. It's like the Star Wars. What are they called? There's like a whole like committee of people that that work on Star Wars, make sure that everything lines up with all the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
storylines. Yeah,
Which,
but
I mean, as they were in full use during those new Star Wars movies that came out because they were so
oh, just on the
logical and
money, like
good
perfectly fit
okay,
into
okay,
every.
let's
Yeah,
not okay, okay,
I
we're
have I have a
oh,
Stephen King question, and you've read the book. Are the names in the book the same as in the movie?
I believe for the most part, yes.
Well, can I just
Uh
ask? And does it bother you at all that their names are coleslaw? I mean, at
No,
all. Okay, okay.
not at all. I think, so my parents are immigrants, and, with a name like Michelangelo, they're, of a Sicilian descent, and, I guess to me, I'm just like, "Yeah, that's a white person name."
Coleslaw.
And I
I don't
mean,
know.
I'm white. I am
Yeah,
white. Italians
yeah,
got folded. We look like white people, so we got folded in eventually.
sure.
Um, uh, so, but anyways, it's like I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Coleslaw,
Yeah. It's so American, it's like
and it's
nothing more
so
American than
Stephen
coleslaw.
King. It's so Stephen King too to me. So did it rub you the wrong way?
Didn't rub me the wrong way. I'm just like, that's a choice. That's like, I mean, that feels like, it's spelled for the listener who's not, it's spelled Coslaw. So it's coleslaw. But if you say it with a southern accent like I have, coleslaw, it sounds like coleslaw, like you eat on your pulled pork sandwiches. I just feel like somebody somewhere in the editing room or with him writing said, "You do know their last name sounds like coleslaw," and he's probably like, "It's a choice." I just felt like a choice. I was like,
Yeah,
What's more American than coleslaw?"
yeah. Um, what did you think of Everett McGill? I love Everett McGill. Do
He's a
you?
handsome guy,
He's tall, handsome, broad shoulders,
handsome guy.
beautiful eyes.
I don't. I think that I think he was. I think he was great. He was good. I don't think they gave him enough, if that makes sense. I feel like
Agreed.
there's some lackingness in just what he's able to do because there's just not a lot for him to do.
They
Yeah.
touch on things, right?
He's
Like,
menacing
and
in that scene with Jane, where she's there and
oh
she realizes
yeah,
the peacemaker is in the recycling bin or recycling can, sorry, and he comes out. It's very menacing. He gives me chills a little bit in that scene. So good on him for that. You know.
and they touch on some interesting stuff, especially considering like he's not a priest, he's a reverend, but like
Yeah.
considering all the stuff that's happened with the Catholic Church, here we have
Sure.
this figure that's supposed to be standing, an upstanding citizen that talks about morality and
Mhm.
all of these things, and yet this is the person who's murdering people,
Mhm.
and they touch on this that he is um he's justifying
Mhm.
why he's doing the things he's doing. What's her face, who he kills,
What
second,
she yeah.
she was
I
gonna kill herself, so he saves her. Um,
Yeah, his morality is blind. Blind justice is what he thinks he's dealing out, but he's really just he's he's caving into his desires. I mean,
we
this is
and we
it's in the subtext, yeah. I
yeah,
was gonna say,
and
and that's the stuff that I love of werewolves, right? It's like
oh,
there's some
yeah.
subtext there, yeah. Again, I'm not gonna get into like talking about what I love and don't love about the werewolf story, but yeah, the moral implications of what he's doing fall completely apart because you're killing people.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's when you
like the whole
justify
idea
things
of
through your own
Jesus is
prism.
yeah. Well, it's like the whole idea of it, right? Is free will, right? That's what the whole idea of religion is. You've been given free will to choose this, and he's not giving them the free will to choose. Like she wants to kill herself. I mean, that's part of the game, right? That's part of what your religion teaches, right? Free will, but also I think there's something interesting into the dichotomy of he's losing his own free will to the desires of his animal nature, which also is very deeply religious because they are constantly trying to fight against some natural urges that we have in place of like of a moral compass based. Anyway, I'm not getting all that, but you know what I mean. It's like there is some real cool dualities there you could play with from a storytelling perspective
Yeah.
that you kind of lose. But hey, that's not the movie they're trying to make, so I'm there for it.
It's not the movie they're trying to make, but the fact that they touch on it but don't, like, go with it is a little, like
Yeah,
it's like, "Ah, man, there's something good there. I
yeah.
wish you I wish you'd"
It's like smelling the garlic bread but not tasting it.
but not tasting the garlic bread, yes.
For the listener, for dinner, I made some really nice garlic bread for my family, and in order to save a pound and a half, I decided not to eat the garlic bread and forego that wonderful carb.
And
And
as we all know, foregoing one, a meal of garlic bread, you'll lose a pound and a half that night
that's science.
as we consume our spooky cocktails.
Spooky cocktails. Yep, yep. And then I spend all night thinking about the garlic bread. So
Yep.
tomorrow I'm gonna eat a whole loaf of
And then
bread
you'll
just to
yeah,
make
yeah,
up for it.
you'll binge on it. Just like a wolf,
Yeah.
like you
I
become
just like
uncontrollable,
it's
and
I gave
you
into my
gave into
desires. See, it's all full circle. You might say it's a cycle.
so, Everett McGill,
Yep.
a little underutilized, I think Megan
Great look.
follows, like I said, brilliant. Her character is actually a thoroughly elaborated on,
Mhm.
as opposed to the novelette. I really liked their solid foundation of their relationship,
Yep.
but
Agreed.
again, I thought it was very weird, especially at the end, where she's like, "And I finally learned to say I love you to my brother." It was like,
It feels
really? Is that what
shoehorned. It's
we're
shoehorned. Yeah.
right?
I don't know what.
We're gonna make it just like a ET
Yeah,
and
it's
the
just like
brother
a
lava lava. No, you don't get to do that voice, Mickey. Okay.
I didn't do that voice. I stopped myself.
No, you can do it. It's fine.
I'm not
It's
doing
fine.
that voice now.
No, dude, it's fine. I mean, everybody,
Yeah.
you're allowed. You're allowed to
Look,
do
look,
that
look,
with
I'm
Italians.
Hispanic. I don't do Hispanic voices because it's so racist when I do it. So
Mickey,
I'm not doing
Mickey's
any voices.
Mickey is Hispanic. He's adopted, for those of you who might not know, if you're not a constant listener. Yet, he is the whitest guy we know. He is the most
Yeah,
American white
really, very.
Texan,
Yep,
Arkansan,
yep,
served the
yep.
military, fucking
Born,
badass,
born
working.
in, born into Gucci though. Born into Gucci for those
You
who don't
just
know.
made that word up, man. I don't. What'd you did
When
Goosey
I will tell you a quick funny story, and then we'll move on to this movie. But
Okay.
when I was in third grade, a teacher of mine took an interest in me, a shine, you might say,
A
and was
shining.
like, took a yes, and rad rom. But she said to me in class, she was like, "Today, guys, I want to do something special. I want to talk about where Mickey's from." And she pulled down a map in front of the whole
Oh,
class. This is not cool. I was like
oh,
in
it
my
was not
chair.
cool.
No,
Fair
I was
enough. Fair enough.
sinking into my chair because I was like, the last thing I want is attention, and the
Yeah.
last thing I want is to feel different, and the
This
last
is
thing I want is to
ammo for
be
bullies.
yeah, this is the last thing I want to be called out from being from a different country. So she pulls out a map. She goes, "Who knows where Honduras is?" And the class was like, "Well, I don't know." And she goes, "Right here in Central America is Honduras. And Mickey's from the town of Tegucigalpa, right there." And I was like, she called
Oh,
Tegucigalpa,
no.
Tegucigalpa,
Oh, no.
Tegucigalpa. I was like, oh man, there's so many problems I had. I was like, number one, I'm being like completely like spotlights all on me. Number two, she mispronounced the town I'm from. So now I feel like it's like, oh, it was just awful. But I tell that sometimes I'm always like, when people say, "Where are you from?" I'm like, Tegucigalpa. But if you're from Texas, they call it Tegucigalpa. I mean, she was
That's
being so sweet, but it was like so
oh,
like
yeah. But
it was awful.
when we in the time period we grew up, being an individual was the worst thing you could be. It is just fuel for,
Yeah.
like, the bullies to attack you, and
Yes. I was
you
like,
gotta
yeah,
you're dealing with enough,
yeah,
living in Texas, looking how you
yeah,
looked,
yeah.
look,
Oh,
just like, oh my
whew,
gosh.
whew.
Gosh. See,
Yeah,
there's the difference between, like, Italians and a lot of others, right? Is
yeah.
that, like, if a teacher were to do that, I'd be like, "Yeah, that's right. I'm fucking
Yeah.
Italian." Like,
Italian.
we're
Okay.
special. That's how you're
Ew.
sort of raised in, so you weren't raised in your culture,
No.
because you're adopted, but I was, and it's like you're told, like, "Listen to me. You're special
Yeah.
because you are this thing that you
Yeah.
had no control over whatsoever."
Every
Because we
woman will
don't
but you're also an Italian man, so every woman will
yeah,
adore
every
you.
woman,
Every woman
including your mother, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, like, you are, and you're basically Jesus, is what's going on here. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
no, not the same experience I had. I did not wanna be different in any way, but you can't avoid it, which is why I think part of Marty really sticks out to me too. It's like, I get Marty's feelings, right? Like, even though I wasn't, like, paraplegic, I mean, I didn't have those disabilities. I still felt sometimes like an outsider when I would see other kids doing things. So I love that scene in this film, where he is in his wheelchair watching the boys play baseball.
yeah,
They
yeah.
linger on that shot just long enough to let you go beyond him just wanting to be able to walk, right? Like, surface level, he's watching these kids run and play ball. So surface level, you're like, oh, of course he wishes he could be out there playing ball with them. But they hold on him for so long that for me, I was like, there's something more to him in this moment. And for me, it was like, in spite of everybody in this town having all these abilities, he knows that he's the one that has to take on the big bad because nobody else is seeing it. With all their abilities, they have the biggest disability, which is the unawareness of the thing that's actually out there trying to get
The
them. He
ignorance,
knows
right?
he can do it. Yeah, the ignorance. He knows he can do it. He has to do it. He's the only one who truly believes. So I love that moment in the film. That would actually be my third aha moment. I really love that little place.
And that's like an Amblin type moment that I think
It
works,
really is. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I would say, we do talk about from time to time, remakes and reboots and that sort of thing. And I gotta
Mhm.
say, this is one I would love to see remade. I think
Mhm.
it's ripe for it.
Sure.
Um, I would love to see a 12 episode miniseries. But I want them to be random in their length. So I think you could have an episode that's like 15, 20 minutes long, and then you can have on
Interesting.
the longest side, I would say no more than 45 minutes
Okay.
for this story. Um, but you can really dig in on what's going on with Everett McGill's character, the relationship between the brother and the sister, Uncle Red. I think you can jump into it without over bloating it the way most
Mhm.
films are nowadays, where there's just
Herb
like,
Kincaid could have him, could we could follow his, like,
yeah,
spiral.
brilliant performance in
Kent
this.
Broadhurst, so good.
He is in Cat's Eye, I
Yeah.
believe. Uh, uh, Interesting fellow. Doesn't he look like it's like they shaved his head for this or something? Like
They d they
he's so boyish
yes.
looking, but then he's in a suit and he's missing his hair. There's something that looks like, is he in a bald cap or something? It's odd, right?
It is, his look
Eh,
is disarming, yeah.
Brilliant
Not
actor.
disarming, alarming, yeah.
Alarming.
Yeah.
Um, a quick story about him, the scene where his son, who's a fucking dick, that kid's a dick, his
He
son,
is, just constantly
it's
messing with
like,
Jane.
you know,
But
Marty got
little
his
boys are like that.
little boys are dicks, but I will say, if my paralyzed friend got his kite stuck up in the tree, I would offer
Yeah.
to get it for him. Although I would imagine Marty, maybe the scene isn't in there. Marty's like, "No, no, 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 no. It's
I can
important to
do
me." So
this.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe his friend is like very progressive, and that's like, Marty's gotta fix this himself,
Mhm. I think
right?
his friend
Um,
has the hots for Jane and is just
well, of
tormenting her
course,
because
you
yeah.
don't yeah, you don't do that to a girl unless you really like her.
Mhm.
Plus, he's got a pantyhose fetish,
Oh, yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Who didn't at that age?
Well,
Hey,
I didn't.
right? I mean, no, nobody. I mean, that was a joke, everybay. That was a
I
joke.
didn't
We're
steal.
all
I didn't steal my
these are just
sister's
jokes.
pantyhose and wear them
These are
on my face
jokes,
and
and then
scare
throw out
people at night
windows.
and throw her out windows. That's you were just angry because
I just wanted more pantyhose. I just
we're so anyways, Kent Broadhurst, Herb Kincaid, he has the scene where he discovers his son, right,
yeah.
at night. And oh, Dead Zone. Dead Zone was one of the other Stephen King adaptations around this time. Um,
Okay. Yep.
anyways, and this reminded me of like discovering a child's body in the park. Um, they're about to shoot the scene. He shows up. The director's all out of sorts. Like it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and he shows up on set and he's like, "What's wrong?" The director's super upset. And Mickey, you've been upset.
Mm,
It's super
yeah.
important that your director is got his shit together, their shit together, he or she or them. They have their shit together. That they have to be the person who always has it together. It's a very difficult job. That's why I get so much praise. Anyways, he's losing it. Why is he losing it? Because they're supposed to show the child's body, right? Dismembered body. And it is, according to Kent Broadhurst, it's like it looks like a mannequin from a department store that
Mm.
had been smashed in with a hammer and then covered in cranberry juice. So on the spot, he goes, "This is such a good actor." He goes, "Listen, I think I can sell what it is that you need sold, and you don't have to ever look at the body. You just keep the camera on me."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Thank you. Yes, okay." They did it, and
This
he's
scene
fucking
plays. Scene
that scene
plays.
watched on its own, that's a brilliant scene
Yeah.
right there.
When that scene started, so Molly watched this with me. When that scene started, we sat in silence. Not that I mean we sit in silence anyway watching a movie, but after the
Well,
silence
you're
broke,
married. You don't have
yeah, we
anything
sit in
interesting to
silence.
say to
I mean,
each
when you're
other.
married, that's basically what you do. You sit in silence. I play on
Whoa,
my
now you're
phone.
Italian? What are you
Oh,
saying about
I don't know.
Italians?
I don't know why that came out. Oh God, I'm going to hell. No, but we're sitting there and the scene ends and we both kind of look at each other and Molly was like, "Wow, that was really good." I was like, "That was really good." I mean, he is really, like you said, selling it and it's very effective. You see it in low budget films. Sometimes you have great actors, right? They're selling the movie because they have no other way to sell the movie. So the actors are having to like lift all the weights.
Yeah.
But in this one for sure, Trent Broadhurst in that moment really earned for me, he earned like a very like nice little highlight in that film of just being another reason to watch. His performance in there is really good. Even when he's being heightened and he's having that argument in the pub.
Private Justice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he is there. He is in it.
Yeah.
He is believable. Not everybody else in that scene is, but he is. And then they go out in the fog, and that's some interesting stuff there too, where they're all like, it's the townspeople now. They're like,
Yeah.
as townspeople do in these movies, they're all on the march to find the monster.
Why would you go out in the fog like that? That
And,
doesn't
and
that
yeah,
doesn't
out in the
that doesn't
fog,
make
out in the
sense.
woods.
That's not a good
We're
idea.
gonna go in groups of 4 because
It's
that'll
very funny. The guy who gets his foot caught in the
bear
trap.
trap.
Ah! Look at how big. What is it?
And then it like he clamps again. It's a
Yeah,
very funny beat. It's a
yeah.
very funny beat. And of course, we got to mention the church scene, the
Oh, so cool. Yeah,
Everett McGill's nightmare that he has.
yeah,
That I mean, like that goes to show you. I think the ending transformation in that scene goes to show you that obviously Carlo Rambaldi was a very talented artist at his craft. And
mhm,
obviously, there were things outside of his control that led to the werewolf not looking great.
yeah.
But those scenes are fan fucking tastic.
Yeah, the scene in the church is a highlight also. It's a high point of that film. There's it kind of gives it kind of tips its hat, I think, a little too early where
Oh,
it's
you get
placed in the
it.
film. Yeah.
You get what's happening. I mean, like, but that's the thing, like,
Yeah,
constantly
I know.
having to do, it's like time and place. Like when this movie came out, viewers weren't as sophisticated. I'm sure many people did figure it out, but like I know at least as a kid watching that,
Oh,
I
as
don't
a
know if
kid,
I
I
would
didn't figure it out.
necessarily know. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, yeah. But the scene is cool, man. I mean, I listen, you got that many people wolfing out in church pews. Yeah, I'm in. That's a great scene.
The metaphor, the unintentional metaphor of that scene. I got to
Mhm,
tell you, like some of the I'm not saying this of all this is I'm not saying this of all people who um have a strong faith and support that faith by going to a church. But I will say in my life and in my experience, some of the worst people I've met are the
mhm,
people who are the most religious. They're
mhm.
the most unforgiving. They're the most. It's
Right.
like the antithesis of everything. At least in the Christian religions,
Mhm.
that's where I have. I think you're the same. I have the most contact with the Christian religions,
Sure,
especially
sure.
Catholicism, being raised Catholic. Um, they tend to be the most unforgiving, the most like it's like the allegory of them like you are using birth control,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you completely were so hot right then,
Oh,
like,
I
not
totally dropped out.
yeah, you said you were using birth control, and then it was like silence for like
So
yeah,
sorry.
but for the listener, he was like going complete
I was
crazy
wolfing
person over
out.
there. He had like veins sticking out of his neck, screaming into the mic. Yeah. No,
Um,
I hear you, and I do think that there's something even if you want to get even like more meta with it, which I don't think that they were trying to do with this film, but even in a more meta way, their leader, their reverend, the person who is their guide in their religion, is the perpetrator of the evil per se, and his biggest, you might say, fear is when he sees his own congregation doing the evils that he's doing. It's almost scarier for him to see it in his flock than to see it in himself. And then you
mm,
can go into like so, and there is a
mhm.
lot with like wolves and flocks and sheep and all that stuff. There's like a whole huge metaverse or meta, thing you can go into with this film if you were to want to do that. It's
And
like I
you
don't think
can.
they were. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can it's a piece of art. You get to pull whatever you want from it, as
That's
well
the
as a
thing.
piece of pulp culture.
That's the thing about this podcast, and I do mean this. It's like this is like the things that we are saying. We're talking about a film having a conversation. Who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah.
But that's what these films are about. They should
Yeah.
be personalized. You go where you wanna go with it, That's why, that's what having the mom and pop shop's about, you know? We don't need one voice telling us how this is supposed to make you feel. It can make people feel all kinds of ways.
That's a wonderful thing that you're able to do now. You're able to share your thoughts and opinions with people like we
Mhm.
are now, right?
Yeah,
Um, but the downside of that is like having your own thoughts and opinions
right.
to consume a piece of art that's been created, whether that is of a high art or low art,
Mhm,
and that's a whole different discussion. But like you consume that and then you reflect upon it with friends, with acquaintances,
mhm.
with people maybe like I can't like the relationship you get to have with a customer and vice versa. The relationship
Yeah,
you get to have with the person who works at the place you frequent, whether it's a coffee shop, a video store, a record store, right? That's an interesting and important relationship, and it used to be more important
yeah,
before we had the internet, right? Um, so it's a it despite the frustrations we deal with working at the video store and dealing with idiots, most
yeah,
of the people we deal with because we are living in a time if you're taking the time to come to a video store
sure.
and you want to talk, right?
Yeah,
And,
that's what it's
you
about.
know, to be fair, you're not always in the mood to talk. Maybe you got personal shit going on in your life, but yeah, the fact that you can discuss with somebody that you don't have a um they're not your brother or your sister or your friend. they're your friend at the video store.
Right.
And I get to express and maybe learn something about myself or another person through their
Yeah.
different points of view that I would never
And
have.
and the thing about, when you're talking to one of those customers or someone like that, you're also not carrying a baggage of what it is to be a brother or a sister, a best friend
Yeah.
from birth. It's like you don't have all that baggage going into it. So there's a little bit kind of more honesty that kind of sometimes happens. You're
Freedom.
allowed to be a piece of yourself that you're not allowed to be maybe in crowds of people that have known you since you were two. So yeah, get to know your local people, man. It's like
Yeah.
go to your local shops
Treat them with respect.
always.
Treat everybody with respect, but,
Goes without saying.
yeah. So, is there anything else you wanted to touch upon before we wrap up this evening's discussion of 1985 Silver Bullet?
Yeah. I'm just gonna just do a quick little kind of like fireside thing right here. See if there's okay. Just a shout out to the father in the movie, Leon Russum, Bob
Yeah.
Coleslaw. Did not get a lot to do. Also, we're very. I did not even know you existed until after the film. I was like, wait,
He
I know I
sucks in the
saw him in a
book.
couple
He sucks in
scenes.
the book too.
It's
It's
like
no good.
I hope he got paid a decent wage for that because I'm telling you, there were some extras in that film. I probably saw more than the dead. Um. Uh. That may have been the only other thing that I had on my list of things that I
All
was
right.
gonna mention. Yeah, no, fun movie. Stephen King, I love you. Corey Haim, just another great delivery of a film that goes down in my canon of horror films that are just ripe with the 80s, man. Just like I don't even know if I want to a modern adaptation. I know that it would have the same feel for me that this one does because it's right in my I was the right age, the right time for this to mean a lot more than maybe it does for some. I don't know.
So, obviously, would you agree this belongs in the Werewolf
Werewolf?
section of the video store?
I do agree.
And who would you recommend this movie to coming into the store?
I wanna kind of throw you under the bus and say everyone, but I'm not going to. I've thought about this
Why are you throwing me under the bus
because I
by
feel like
saying
you're
that?
like if you're coming into my store, if you're coming into my store and you
Is that
haven't
what I
seen
sound
this
like?
movie, I don't
Is
know.
that
That's not
what
how you sound. No,
you
that's how you
fucking
sound in my
asshole?
head. In my head, that's how you sound.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my
No, no,
god.
no, no, no. This is a This is the guy who likes Monster Squad. This is the guy who likes who likes Amblin, who likes
Of
that.
course, it's a
Because
guy, not a girl. Often with you, it's only guys.
well, I actually think of guy as a term for both sexes. Because I like for when I refer to any sex for it to be a male dominated term. Um so I don't know. That was supposed to be a joke that came up really.
No, I mean, I laughed. I laughed. We'll see if the listener laughed.
Yeah. No, no. For anybody who comes in that likes Monster Squad, loves the Goonies, loves Lost Boys, this is like just right in that wheelhouse, right? It's like it's Corey Haim, it's kids fighting monsters. It is right along that. I think it's young enough for a lot of young viewers to watch, enjoy, and not be too terrified. But the scares are good enough that you're also not being placated to as a little kid. So that's my recommendation. That's where it goes. What do you say? What's your rec?
I totally agree with everything you said. Um, I would add to that, like, if you're a person who loves cult films and you haven't seen this, this is a must. This is a
Must.
must
Yep.
see. Um, and of course, if I ever see you reading a Stephen King book
Yeah.
and you come to the store, you gotta see Silver Bullet. You have to. You have to. And then if you come into the store around Halloween, if you've listened to our Halloween episodes, I will display my comic books and horror novels that I have. And a Werewolf of the Cycle will be something you can read while you're at the store. You don't get to leave with it. But you can check it out. And the artwork by Bertie Wrightson is like out of this world fantastic. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite out of all the stuff? No, I can see he's picking up the book and he's looking through it right now. So you don't. That's okay. You need to read it. I think you should read it. I think this is something you could read on a rainy afternoon. You know, it's that short.
I mean, look, the werewolf is incredible. I mean, the I'm not gonna say a favorite. I think it's hard to not love the multi werewolves in the church with the stained glass.
Yeah,
That's a pretty great
that's
image.
pretty great.
That's a great image. Also for what it represents for like you and I were talking about our own like kind of religious backgrounds. It just it strikes an extra chord, you know, it strikes an extra nerve.
Yeah.
So that one I think would be on a quick look through, being put on the spot. That's where I'm going to go. But
Gotcha.
come back to me after I've gone through the whole thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review us, and
Follow us on Instagram at the return slot _of_horror_pod.
Please do. And chime in.
For sure.
I'll post a photo of Columbo. I want to know your opinion. Does Columbo look like a werewolf?
All right. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more werewolf.
Werewolf?
Thank you to our friends at Red Tower. Thank you to the amazing animators at Negative Kitty.
Ow, ow, ow! Ow, 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 ow!
Ow, ow, ow! Ow! You bit me! Jesus Christ!